Welcome to One Girl's Treasure. My name is Carrie. I wanted to start by talking to you about, I guess, the first really cool thing that happened. And it was just about 3 or 4 months before my husband Todd was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So he had been, he had just woken up one morning and he said to me, I just had the coolest dream. And he wasn't someone that dreamt a lot, so I was kind of intrigued. I was like, okay, tell me about it. And he's like, well, no, I'll tell you when I get back from work. And I said, no, tell me now, because I am someone who dreams, and I know, like, I write my dreams down in a journal, and I know if I don't do that, then as the day goes on, sometimes you can forget bits and pieces. So I said, tell me the dream. And he's like, okay. So he sat on the edge of the bed and he said, I had this dream that I was going from business to business, collecting. And as a side note, he had a business, and part of his business was doing collections, and it was his least favorite part of owning a business. And this is what was happening in his dream. He was collecting, and he said, I went to this one business, and this man approached me. He was really tall, he had blonde curly hair and green eyes, and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, and he looked me in the eye and he said, you don't have to do this anymore. And he took me to this beautiful paradise, and he said there were all these gardens, and there were all these like white birds that looked like peacocks. And he said it was just, he said he felt like a weight had just been lifted off of his shoulders. He felt so much peace. And as he was telling me this, like, he was getting quite emotional about it. And I could tell, like, this dream had such an impact on him. And I just remember thinking, like, this is a pretty amazing dream. And then so fast forward approximately 3 or 4 months later, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I might tell you a little bit about that, but at this point I just want to focus mainly on just, a lot of the cool things that happened. So that dream, I would say, was sort of like the beginning of many of the cool things that happened. And it's interesting because, so now I'm just thinking about, and I'll share a dream that I actually had. And I had this dream probably about 3 or 4 months after Todd passed away. And the dream that I had was that it was kind of like, an aerial shot that you would take from like a drone or a helicopter. And it was sort of like coming into this forested area, and there was like this clearing, and I could see this huge log cabin with a big wraparound front porch, and I could see my husband coming out and walking towards me, and he was just so happy and so healthy. And I kind of felt like it was neat because I've always sort of I'm at peace. Like, I believe that he, his spirit has left and he's moved on. And I still sometimes feel, not as much now, but I would say in the first, maybe the first year or so, I could just like sense like a presence. Like, it felt like his presence. And I know that it's, just from some reading that I had done just in regards to grief and stuff, that's a very normal experience. So, but it was very surreal. And so in my dream, back to my dream, he's walking towards me, and he's so happy. He's so healthy. He actually looked like he was maybe about 30 years old. He was actually 49 years old when he passed away. But in my dream, he looked like he was about 30. He had lost a lot of his hair throughout, chemo and such, especially towards like the end, not in the beginning so much. And His hair was beautiful. He had a bit of a curl, which was I love that curl in his hair. And the one funny thing was he was wearing a black leather jacket, which that's not something he would normally wear, but it was just really cool because in my head I'm like, well, you can wear whatever you want when you're in heaven or whatever. And so, and it just felt so much peace. Not that I didn't have peace, because I can honestly say, and this was the other cool thing, he had so many dreams about this paradise that he was going to, or heaven, or, whatever you would like to call it. He called it heaven and he called it paradise. But he had these, like, from the time he was diagnosed throughout the course of his 17-month journey. And I wrote all of them down because I just thought it was so cool. It was so fascinating. It was almost like there was some type of preparation that was taking place within him for his next, life, so to speak. And so that's the kind of stuff I wanted to share with you and talk to you about. I will give little bits and pieces of the journey in terms of, maybe talking about what were some of his symptoms. But I don't want to dwell on that because I don't want to invoke fear into people. Because I think sometimes when people talk about, we can just sort of be like, oh, I've had those symptoms. And really my intention behind this is just to inspire and share some of the really cool, some of the cool things that happen. So that's what I'm going to do. So thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking with you in my next video.